just copy the first one down.
That's ST.
Hmm?
It's supposed to be ST.
Yeah, ST. I have to make my S's first, so they look like flags. Be careful. Now, number 1 has 4 terms. And if you look back at your notes, or you've been looking at it, 4 terms means grouping. Every single time. 4 terms means grouping. The first thing, though, before you do anything to see, does it have a GCF? Is there something common in every single one of those terms?
2.
But there's no 2 in the third term. Has to be in every single term.
S.
No, but there's no S's here.
1.
Just 1. There's really nothing except 1. There's nothing common in every single term. So I know I can start grouping. Remember, you're going to group your first 2, and you're going to group your second 2. Leave a sign in the middle. Now, in the first 2, what is common? 2. So I'm going to take a 2 out. If I take a 2 out of the first term here, what am I left with?
T.
T. Bring down my minus sign.
Minus 4.
How many times does 2 go into 8? 4. So that's your first set. And if you distribute it back, you'll get right back to where you were. Bring down your plus sign. What's common in the second set?
S.
S. And in the first term, what would you be left with?
T.
T. Bring down your minus sign. And the second term? 4. Oh, look at that. The parentheses match. If the parentheses match, remember, that's going to be your first answer. So T minus 4. And then the second part is the outside stuff. What is the outside stuff? 2 plus S. And you're done. So that is grouping 4 terms. That's how I do it. Okay, go ahead and write down the second one. All right, the second one. There are 3 terms there. Now, if there are 3 terms, that's what we did yesterday. It's either simple or any outie. How do you know it's one or the other?
X squared.
There's a 1 in front of the z squared, and if there's a 1 in front, we know it's simple.
But didn't you do one yesterday when it was like 2?
But we took a GCF out, and then it became simple. You'll see. There's one like this one here.
Oh, wait, we'll leave here.
All right. Do I have a common number or letter in this problem?
No.
Nope. So I can go ahead and start. Remember, with simple, you're going to make your 2 sets of parentheses. What letter are you dealing with?
Z.
So we can put our Z's in. And then remember, you need to think of 2 numbers that multiply to 16, but could add or subtract to give you
8 and
6. 8 and 2. Now, if you need to write down the numbers that multiply to 16, we've got 1 times 16, we have 2 times 8, and we have 4 times 4. But the only pair that either you add or subtract and will give you 6 is the 2 and the 8. So that's how I know those are my numbers. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. You put the 8 here and the 2 here. You could do vice versa. Now, with the 8 and the 2, did we have to add them or subtract them to get 6?
Subtract.
Subtract. So they have to be different signs.
The 8 will get the subtraction because it's the bigger number.
Perfect. So, right, exactly how I was going to say it. The bigger number needs this minus sign, and she said the minus goes with the 8 because it's the bigger number. And if the 8 gets the minus, that means the 2 has to get the opposite sign.
And that's
And you can-
always, right?
And you can check it. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. And negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. So they would check out.
The bigger number gets the middle sign.
Yep, if you have to subtract it. All right. Go ahead and write down number 3. Now, when you look at number 3, does it look like a simple or an any outie?
Any outie?
Looks like an any outie. But do we have something in common in all of them?
Yeah,
Two.
2.
A 2. So we have to take the 2 out before we start the problem. So if I take the 2 out, what am I left with in this first term here?
C to the second
C
power.
to the second. Bring down your minus sign. What are you left if you take the 2 out of this term?
C.
C. The 2's gone. Minus, now here you got to divide. How many times does 2 go into 24? 12.
So we made this into a
We made it into a symbol. Because now if you cover up that 2, I go, oh, that's just like this problem. There is a 1 in front of the C squared. I don't care what this blue original problem is. I'm looking at the one in black in parentheses.
Okay,
So-
it wasn't as simple. We made
We
it.
made it.
Plus you took out the greatest common factor.
But what
You
was
have
it,
to.
what was it before it was a simple?
Any outie. But you have to take out a GCF if there is.
If we would have done it any outie, we would have been wrong.
Correct, because you would have had a GCF inside there and that wouldn't be right. All right, so again, I'm going to cover up my 2. I don't even want to look at it. I just want to look at the part that's in parentheses. Now, if it's simple, that means I need to write, again, my 2 sets of parentheses. What letter am I dealing with this time?
C.
C. Now, I got to think, 2 numbers that multiply to 12, and what number's in front of the C?
A 1.
Technically a 1. So what numbers multiply to 12 but could add or subtract to give you 1?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. 4, 4, and 3. I'm going to put 4 and 3. You could put 3 and 4. Doesn't matter what order you put it. Now, do you have to subtract or add these to get 1?
Subtract.
Subtract. Now, look at the 1. It's a negative.
The 4 will get the subtraction.
Because it's the bigger number. So again, this sign goes to your bigger number, meaning the other number has to get the opposite sign. And you can check it. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then what's the only thing we got to remember to do at the end?
Bring the 2 down.
Bring the 2 down. So if you don't have that 2, you change the problem. Gotta have that 2 there. So this part is your final answer. So it could look like an any outie, but you've got to